Boring. So we kind of drew the line and said that's going to be it. All right. Now, what's funny about all this is, all right, last night someone actually sent me a very lengthy message, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to try to like summarize it. All right. But basically, what this person said, they sent me a big email, and in summary.
So not only did he tell us once that he's not going to quote the whole thing, but he's instead going to summarize it, but he told us, what, 4 times? And I always find it really difficult to believe any of the feedback the DSP claims to be getting behind the scenes in things like his emails, especially if he's not willing to read them exactly how they're written or even give this person a shout out. But he respected the feedback enough to read it on the stream.
Here's what they said. They said, you said something the other day that resonated with me, and I'd like to emphasize this. They said, you mentioned that on some of your streams, recently in particular, when you do your podcast and you're just hanging out with your audience, that people tend to come by and engage and contribute. And sometimes you'll boot the game up after, and you say, man, the rest of the stream is dead. Like, people disengage, people don't support. He says, well, maybe that's a sign. Maybe this is a sign that times are changing, that the days of being a full-time gamer and sitting around playing games all day are in the past, that people just don't care as much about that anymore. There was a time when it didn't matter what game I played, people would come by and engage and support and love it. And now I think those days are past, that people would much rather have a social experience with me than just basically play any old game just to say there's a game on the screen. You know what I'm saying? So I guess the question is, right, is that the case? I'm 41 years old. I'm going to be 42 in less than 2 months. Am I now reaching the time of my life where I'm older, and the people who are coming by to my streams every day are coming by more to hang out with me than watch me play a game?
I think the answer has to be 100% yes, DSP, and I don't understand why you're just now catching on to this. How are you still so ignorant as to what your audience is really there to do when it comes to your own stream? There's a reason that so many other popular and prominent streamers just hang out with their audience and do whatever they want on a stream, and they get a bunch of people tuning in day after day. It's because they're creating an environment where people want to just keep coming back and hanging out. It's streams where you can just have them on in the background and do your own thing, and every once in a while you pop into chat to chime in and then just go back to doing your own thing. A lot of the content creation on the streaming side is moving more towards this and has been moving more towards this for a very long time. DSP's once again behind the curve. It's in a similar vein to a lot of long form content being more popular as well. For pretty much the exact same reason. It's just content that you can put on in the background that you enjoy while you also do something in your real life that you enjoy, whatever hobby that is, whatever you have going on. Hell, you could even be working while you listen. It's always been strange to me how much of an emphasis DSP's always put on his gameplay. He always acted as though his audience came second to whatever game he was playing. I've never understood that mentality, especially after he switched over to live streaming, because that is very much where live streamers thrive, is interacting with their audience. And I became even more confused after he started marketing himself as an interactive streamer, but the only time that you get any sort of real interaction with him is in between him splitting parts and the level 1 pre-stream. But to address the fact that he brought up him being 41 as some sort of reason as to why this is the case, I don't think so, DSP. Your age has nothing to do with it. I have no idea why you even thought that that was relevant. Being 41 doesn't mean shit in this instance. What are you talking about?
Is that really the case? Maybe it is. Maybe that actually is what's going on now. And this is something that I've been saying for years was going to happen. I told you guys, listen, as I get older, all right, I know I'm not going to be able to play video games as much as I do now. I know I'm not going to be able to play at a high of a level. I can tell you right now, as I'm doing this with my hands, and I just do this little stretch exercise, all of the muscles in my right hand are incredibly tense right here, all in the joints, and have pain. It's carpal tunnel. And it's because I've been playing video games full time for 15 years. And I'm doing this right now. I've got tons of pain shooting through my pinky right now, right here, as the muscle extends, just doing this exercise. Because the human body is not meant to sit around playing video games all day. You know what I mean? As I get older, these things are going to happen. And I know I'm not going to be able to keep doing these full time like I've been doing for how long now.
Well, DSP, you have nobody to blame for that but yourself. There are tons of content creators online who have been playing games for just as long as you and they don't have these issues. And do you want to know why that is? It's because they actually go outside. It's because they have things that they do outside of playing video games for the stream. Like I said, playing video games just as long as you have been, but they do other things that get their body the exercise and the nutrients that they need to continue to work the way that they're supposed to. That's why a lot of other content creators creators also don't have gout. It's because they don't abuse their body the same way that you have. It has nothing to do with the video games you play and everything to do with how you treat your body. But if you want my honest take on his stupid hand thing, I don't think that it hurts nearly as bad as he's letting on. I think he's just using it as an excuse so in the near future when the gameplay starts to slow down, he has something that he can point back to and blame it on. I mean, this is a man who complains about the tiniest little inconvenience in his life every single day on the pre-stream. So if his hand was constantly hurting nearly as bad as he's saying it does, you'd have heard about it. You'd have heard about it almost non-stop for a long time now. But that's not the case. He's only brought it up a few times, and one of them happened to be while he was actively trying to make excuses as to why he couldn't play with a character in Street Fighter and be any good. But regardless of whether or not his pain is real, the idea of a 41-year-old man complaining online about how much his hands hurt despite never actually having to work a hard day in his life and instead getting it from playing video games is embarrassing.
And so I've been telling you guys that this is why over the last several years I've been trying to more diversify my content. At one point it was literally I sit here all day playing video games and that's the footage I put out. And then after a while I was like, you know, I don't want to just play video games. Let's do some vlogging. Let's do some this. Let's do some that. And that's how the whole idea of a morning podcast came about. Let's diversify and do something different. Let's just hang out. Let's have conversation. Let's talk about news. Let's talk about current events. Let's talk about upcoming games. Let's talk about whatever you guys have on your mind. Let's do this every day. Correct? And I'm happy to do that. I like doing that a ton. And a lot of you have come out and said, yeah, I literally only tune into your podcast these days. Unless there's a big game that I'm really interested in, I'm way more interested in you and your opinions and your discussion with us than I am about you just messing around with any old game, especially when it's games that I'm not too interested in. You know, and that's the difference. Back in the day, I was a big YouTuber, and anyone would always wanted to tune in no matter what I was playing. It was like an event to see Darkside Phil play a game. Today, it's not anymore. I'm a small-time guy. So a lot of people just pick and choose the games they want to watch, and me playing games full-time, half the time, it's kind of like I'm playing for myself, right? Let's be honest here. You know, do I have an audience for certain games? Yes, I do. But it's not a giant audience like it used to be.
And I don't think that diversifying the content that you make on your YouTube channel is a bad idea. In fact, I think it's a really good idea, an idea that I wish that I committed to more often than I do. But I am confused as to why DSP thinks that talking to his chat and playing a video game are two mutually exclusive ideas. It's just never made sense to me. Every other content creator is capable of talking to their chat while they play a game. And it's actually something that goes really well hand in hand. Because when you have nothing left to talk about, when you've exhausted all of your things to talk about for the day, you can just focus on the game and you can talk about that, and maybe that will spur up a different conversation. And when the game isn't the focus, it becomes a background, something for people to just watch and get lost in when they look at the screen, but the real focus is on what you're saying. But DSP just wants to get rid of the gameplay almost completely from the sounds of it. He's not interested in giving you any sort of interesting visual to look at while he talks. He wants to just sit here and do this with the webcam on. He wants you to look at his face for some reason while he talks, instead of giving you something that's actually visually stimulating, something that is interesting to look at other than his ugly mug. But if he was willing to talk about things unrelated to the gameplay while he was playing, then people would be tuning into every single game, not again for the gameplay, but instead to hear what he was talking about, because what's going on screen doesn't really matter. And I imagine that would take a lot of the pressure off of DSP, because he wouldn't have to be reliant on these hot new video games coming up. He wouldn't have to spend money on buying new games all of the time to try and keep his audience interested. He would just have to continue talking, and this man loves nothing more than to waste air and hear himself talk.
So maybe this is a sign. If literally I turn on my stream and I hang out with you guys for 2 hours on a podcast and everyone's engaged in having a good time and talking with me and supporting the podcast, and then I turn on a game and it's dead for the next 3 hours, is that a sign? Now, by the way, that's not what happens every day. I'm just saying, this is something that people have been observing recently, is that, yeah, this is happening with certain games on and off. It's not every day, okay? And no, I have no plans to say, oh, I'm just going to quit playing games. No, absolutely not. I'm a gamer at heart. It's my lifelong hobby. Way before it was ever a job for me. I would never just give up gaming. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to become talk side Phil today, where all day all we do is talk about different topics. Hour 1, we do the podcast. Hour 2, it's politics hour. Hour 3, it's current events hour. Hour 4, it's drama and gossip hour. Hour 5, no, we're not doing that. Okay? But the point I'm making is that as I get older, that's probably the direction we're going.
And if I've got to be honest with all of you guys, I'm really not looking forward to the day where DSP quits doing gameplay and instead does this for an extended period of time, where he swaps the entire first stream of the day with nothing but talking. Don't get me wrong, that would probably be infinite content for the detractors and in turn me. But I do kind of appreciate DSP playing video games so that I have a break, so that I don't have to keep up with the guy actually 24/7. Because as soon as the gameplay comes on, I can just quit the stream. There's nothing else going on. He's not gonna say anything that's cool or interesting. But God, if we talked for actually 5 hours straight, there's gonna be so much content, dude. I'd never get a break.
You understand? I know this is gonna be, it's gonna be a slow transition, but I feel like I've got to prepare everyone for that transition. For those out there who've only known Darkside Phil as an online YouTube gamer for the last 15 years, you have to understand that we're definitely moving in this other direction now. Okay? People are tuning in just to hang out with me and hear my opinions, not to see me play a video game all the time.
So he 100% understands the concept that people are tuning in to hang out with him, but why aren't they able to hang out with him while he plays video games? Why is he incapable of hanging out with them, rather, while he plays video games? That's the part I'm still failing to understand. Why do these things have to be separate? Why is he incapable of just playing the video game like you would if a person was there in real life and just shooting the shit? But before moving any further into this clip, I do want to address the fact that I think the reason he gets more viewers during his pre-stream genuinely is because people tune in to hear the ignorant shit that he's going to say rather than an actual interest in being a fan. I do think that the inflated view count really does come from a lot of LARPers and a lot of detractors. But hey, for some people, views are views and they don't care how they get them. I didn't think that DSP was that guy, since he constantly tells us all the time that that's not him and he's not a sellout and he doesn't want to be a stupid lol cow online or whatever. But if he wants to move more in that direction, I guess that's up to him. It's his business, not mine.
Not to say that, again, that that doesn't exist. It does. And people are excited for certain games and things, but it's not every game all the time, right? And when I find myself being faced with challenges and changes, you know, right now, no exaggeration, this month, I'm down over $1,000 of revenue and I haven't made any of it back. I was hoping maybe some people who had memberships and got a free one from this stupid membership exploit that these trolls are using would have said, all right, well, I normally would buy a membership for Phil from his channel to support him, and I got a free one, so I'm gonna, do a super chat instead, or I'll tip instead. That hasn't happened, okay? It hasn't, and so because of that, I'm out of tons of revenue.
But it has happened though, DSP. I've seen it with my own eyes during your streams. I'm absolutely certain that there has been tips and super chats that have come in with the message along the lines of, hey, I'd usually use this $5 to get myself a membership, but instead I'm giving it to you since I got it for free from Argentina. And then you go on a whole rant about how Argentina's been screwing you and it's all the detractors' fault. We do it all of the time, DSP. Why are you misrepresenting the situation? Why are you actually lying right now? You can sit there and cry poor all you want, just don't lie about it. Have the detractors hurt your bottom line at this point? I don't know. I don't see your analytics. I don't know what your bank account looks like. But even if I give you the benefit of the doubt and say, yes, the detractors have hurt your bottom line and you are reeling in your pocketbook because of this, you are still outright lying about the fact that people aren't giving you money in different means because they don't have to pay for their membership anymore. But real talk, how did we even get here? I'm honestly confused about that too. We went from talking about how people aren't tuning into the gameplay streams and instead just want to sit here and talk with you all day, and all of a sudden we're talking about Argentina again? Okay, if you say so.
And that's not my fault, and that's not your fault. That's YouTube's system being abused and YouTube being slow as shit to doing anything about it, as they always have been, okay? And then I boot up a game. Oh, let's play a game today, and the whole stream's dead. No one's paying attention, no one's talking, no support's coming in. This is a business I'm operating, okay? This is my livelihood. And as much as people who live in fantasy world would like to say, oh, and Phil shouldn't eBay, and Phil shouldn't bring any of this stuff up, that's because they live in a fucking fantasy world. They don't live in reality like us. They live in a place of rainbows, unicorns, sprinkles, pots of gold, dancing leprechauns, and shit that doesn't fucking exist, all right? In reality,
So because I think you should conduct yourself with a little more dignity, with a little more self-respect online, I live in a magical make-believe land. Because I think that you shouldn't get online and actually e-bag, I live in a fantasy world. I'm really failing to see how those two things are related at all. If anything, I think I live in a reality-style world. But what do I know? I'm just some bozo with a full-time job who's more financially stable than this pig roach who lives on the other side of the country from me. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, you know categories.
I have to make a living doing this, okay? And I'm not asking for any more than what you guys have always done for me. I'm saying that now I'm at a significant loss, all right? And I'm faced with the reality that it looks like more people are tuning in and enjoying the content I do when I'm just talking with you than when I'm playing games.
And that's a really shady way for DSP to phrase this, that he's not asking for any more than people have been giving him, as if they haven't already been bankrolling his entire lifestyle for the past 13 years. And it's not exactly a very frugal lifestyle that he lives. He's a man of indulgence. He's a man of vice. It just so happens that the vices that he decided to pick weren't exactly the most exciting. I mean, who's picking gambling and alcohol over drugs and girls? Come on now. I just want to say for the record that I also don't endorse picking drugs and girls, because either way you're just going to wind up broke.
Now, in all cases, if you're playing a high priority game or a game that's more challenging, you know what I mean? There are games that absolutely, the more hype behind them, people like that. But I feel like there's certain hype games that people will always come out and support, and then there's other games that are kind of like the games in between, and people are like, eh, and some people will show up and some people won't, right? So I basically have to figure something out here. Like, what's the balance? What does this data tell me? Because again, this is my business. I have to analyze this data in a very smart manner, professional manner. If I'm seeing that when I am doing shows, like, for example, the podcast, or, for example, the new Retro React stream, where it's just me reacting to my old gameplay and laughing. We're all laughing together, and I'm commentating on how bad that gameplay used to be. If that's doing better than me actually playing new games, there's obviously been a change, correct? And I'm trying to observe and acknowledge this change so that we can adapt for the better.
He tries to make himself sound so smart when he's talking about how he needs to analyze the data in a business professional style way, or whatever the hell he said. But that just leads me to ask, when has he ever decided to actually analyze any sort of data at all? He's not exactly a numbers guy. I mean, he's been putting content on the internet for years now, and it's never really exactly been block buzzers, you know? So when was he looking at these numbers? When was he analyzing any sort of data? Because if he was, he would have realized a long time ago that he needed to be working on his titles and his thumbnails. He would have realized that hopping on some of these trends that he could get behind at least a little bit would have benefited his channel. He would have realized that long-form content has been growing and growing on the platform. He would have realized that networking with other content creators is going to give you a leg up in the space. He says that he's trying to observe and acknowledge this change so that he can adapt for the better, which, if you ask me, is just a bunch of business-style buzzwords that, again, he thinks makes him sound smarter. But we all know the guy by now. He's not actually interested in making his content any better. What he is always on the lookout for is the easiest way to make money, though. So if he can convince his audience that him just talking into the camera instead of actually doing anything is what they want to see and they're going to give him money for it, why wouldn't he try?
I want to put out content that you want and that you will show up and support, all right? I don't want to be playing games all day, every day, and people telling me that now I'm a dinosaur because I'm just playing games all day. Right? I don't want this to be like it was 10 years ago when I wasn't doing direct capture. Well, at this point I was, but you know what I'm saying? Like the 2012, 2013 era. Didn't do direct capture, didn't do live streaming, was just doing the same thing every day, in and out, not innovating, not changing, not listening to feedback, and then falling way behind.
Well, DSP, I hate to be the bearer of bad news in this case then, but you're already there. At least for the most part, because you did try and diversify your content a little bit with the React stream and the Throwback channel. The problem with those, though, is that they're so transparently lazy and low effort that they're actually not worth a goddamn thing. It's not content that anybody wants to see. Maybe if you would have done it years ago when people were actually asking you to do it, it would have been something. But instead, you decided to do it so much later than people were asking for it, like those people aren't around anymore. And maybe it would still be salvageable, and I feel like I say this all the time, if you were just an entertaining person, if you had a personality that people wanted to see. But that's just not you, and it's really never been you.
Because the truth is, if in 2012 I listened to all the feedback that I was getting, and I jumped on that movement, let's start live streaming, let's be interactive live streamers, let's change the content up, let's do direct capture, let's try new projects. If I had done that when I still had my popularity on YouTube, today things would be very different. I wouldn't have ended up being the whipping boy of the internet, right? This is how you don't play, making fun of me, Phil's the living meme that sucks at games and blah, blah, blah. None of that would happen.
Yeah, DSP, I gotta press X to doubt on that, though, because whether or not you are doing new projects or doing it in direct capture, your gameplay is still ass. You are still not good at video games, and people would have called you out for it regardless of what it looked like. This Is How You Don't Plays would still exist. They still would have probably started at about the same time. They would have just had better footage to work with at the time than they started with. I don't know why you think that doing something like direct capture was gonna stop people from making fun of how bad you are at video games. I mean, you're an interactive live streamer, you stream at 1080p, and you do direct capture, and people still make This Is How You Don't Plays of current playthroughs that you're doing. So yeah, I think you're dead wrong in this aspect. Moving past the This Is How You Don't Plays, you'd still be a lolcow regardless of what you did, because it doesn't really matter what content that you do. People are drawn to you, DSP. They're drawn to making fun of you because your personality is the problem. It's who you are as a person that draws them in to make fun of you. And that's not exactly something that you can change without some sort of deep introspective look into yourself and wanting to be better. Like that'll ever happen.
If I was smart enough back then to see the trends changing and roll with the suggestions you were giving me, I would have been in a much better position. But I didn't. I was obstinate and stubborn and stupid. And I acknowledge that today because it's a decade later and it's easy to look back and say, wow, I was so dumb. But back then I thought my shit didn't stink. I was like, oh, I'm the popular YouTuber, not you. I know better than you. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because I like doing it. And I'm successful at doing this. I'll just keep doing it and never change. And it didn't work.
But you still have that mentality to this day, DSP. That's something that you say to people all of the time when they try and give you feedback in your chat, when they give you feedback during the suggestion box segment that is now kill. I mean, how many times have we heard DSP say, oh, I'm the one that's been running a successful YouTube channel for 13 years full time now. What do you know? This is my business. What do you know about business? I've been running this business for 13 years now. I mean, he does it all of the time. Anytime that he needs an easy rebuttal against somebody giving him some sort of actual critique, he just throws this out there right into their face as if it means anything, acting as if these people who are watching his content and know what they want to see can't give him any sort of valid criticism, which I just want to say is very ignorant, and I really don't see how that was ever going to benefit him as a content creator. I know that the answer is that it wasn't, and he was never actually looking for it to benefit him. He was just looking for an easy dunk so that he could feel better about himself and boost his ego, but that just shows you where his priorities are and that they're not in the right place, obviously.
It ended up I had to change, and it was too little too late. And, you know, I fell behind the times, and I went from being Mr. Prominent on YouTube to the joke of YouTube, right? It's literally what happened. So today, when I'm seeing these new trends, okay, and I'm hearing these things about what you guys are saying and everything, I realize I need to listen to feedback, I need to observe the patterns, and I need to change with the times. So what does that mean? I don't know yet. I don't know. Like right now, on this very podcast, I have 464 viewers. When I start playing Baldur's Gate, we're going to have 200 viewers. Because people are going to leave. You know? Now, again, not to say this will happen with every game. Hot new games always get that attention at first, but then that attention dies out over time. Certain styles of games, like the ultra challenging games like Lies of P or a FromSoft style game, those usually retain viewers and interest for longer periods of time, right? But it really depends.
So then maybe the takeaway shouldn't necessarily be to get rid of gameplay or lessen your gameplay, but instead play newer games that people actually want to see, but for shorter amounts of time. Don't commit yourself to doing full playthroughs of games that nobody wants to see after the first 4 parts. And that was a criticism that he received in, 2023, and he even talked about on the pre-stream. He was even batting around the idea of not committing to full-length playthroughs of games that he didn't see doing well. Whatever even happened to that? He just gave up on it instantly. And funnily enough, I think that was even right before Final Fantasy 16 came out, a game that he absolutely hated but continued to play all the way through for some reason. That would have been the perfect time to employ that strategy and see how the audience handled it and see what the feedback was like. But instead of taking these smaller steps of just not playing games that he's not actually interested in playing, DSP is sitting here talking about potentially getting rid of almost all of the gameplay? Sounds robust.
It really depends because it's funny. Again, it used to be any game that I played would get interest. Now, not at all. You know, like a dragon, it's very hard to retain interest. Even Tekken 8, which I've been telling you over the last week, I love Tekken 8. I think it's a great fighting game, and I'm actually doing really good at learning it at a fast pace and getting better. Man, it doesn't seem like there's many that care. And that's sad, because I really like it. And I think that I have potential to get much better at fighting games in the future if I apply myself the way I am now with the whole studying aspect and applying. I mean, day one Yoshimitsu is ridiculous. Most people would look at that and be like, that's the first day he played that character? What? Seriously? Yeah. I never even touched him before. I didn't even know his moves until the night before when I watched videos. So doing that well, you know what I'm saying? Pretty cool, right?
So I'd like to take a second just to look at a couple of the people that are in DSP's chat right now. Starting off with BITW Awesome, who for once is not saying Romance Catherine, but instead saying just play it off screen in reference to him playing Yoshimitsu in Tekken 8, which I 100% agree with. There's so many games that DSP should just playing off screen because his audience isn't interested in seeing them. Tekken 8 being one of them, as well as that new Like a Dragon game that his audience very clearly does not like. Avarice is in chat repeating my sentiment about not finishing games. He says, don't worry about finishing games. Play a new game at least twice a week on stream, which again I think is a really good idea given the attention span of his dents. They love to see new games, they always want to see something new, and by not finishing games and instead playing new games at least twice a week, he would keep them engaged, he would keep them interested. And then of course there's Game Over Scythe, I believe that's how that username is pronounced, that says, then there's Dr. Disrespect, Mr. Beast, and other that you always crap all over, and they're still pulling big numbers. Sounds like it's the streamer and not the games, lol, but you'll never listen. And I could say that till I'm blue in the face. It does doesn't matter what the game is. It's all about how entertaining you are as a streamer, as an entertainer. These people could make the same content day in and day out and it wouldn't matter because their audience is going to show up because they like the person. But of course, there's nothing that DSP could do, dude. He did everything right. He did nothing wrong.
So, I would love feedback on this topic. Okay? Absolutely, positively, I would love feedback on this topic. I want to know what it is that you like most about my content and what you want to see more of. And if you have a very strong opinion about something I'm doing right now that I shouldn't be doing, let me know. Or if it's something that you like that I'm doing and you want to see more of it, let me know. I want feedback on this because I want to be doing things that you want, especially at a time when I need to have people supporting the business. I do. Right now, I'm in big risk right now that if the trend doesn't pick up or change in the next 1 to 2 months, I'm going to be shit out of luck this year trying to afford everything because all the membership revenue is gone. And that was no exaggeration. Over $1,000 a month I was making on YouTube. That is now literally gone. No one is paying for memberships anymore. Everyone got a free one. You see? So that's horrible. And that's something that I need to figure out. Okay?
And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that he should conduct himself with a little more self-respect on the internet. Because what self-respecting businessman is going to get online and basically tell their customer base that I don't know what you guys want, but please let me know because that's what I need to do. I want to make money, guys. Honesty is always a good thing. Transparency is always a good thing, but there is such a thing as being too honest and too transparent. You should do what your customer base wants you to do. You should be looking to make your customers as happy as possible in your business. But outright saying that you're only making them happy so that you can continue to make money comes off as sleazy. It comes off as slimy. Pleasing customers to make money kind of goes without saying, but that just means that you shouldn't be saying it. And there's a reason that you shouldn't be saying it because it's not a good look.
So let's talk about it. All right, let's figure it out. And by the way, don't let the white noise of the troll idiots who come in, you know, basically kill our intelligent discussion about this. Because I'm talking about people who are actually fans of me and my content, not people who come in, oh, your content sucks. Well, that's funny. That's hilarious. Ha, ha, ha. But that doesn't help. That's not constructive criticism, you fucking idiot. You know? I want to know what it is that people do like about me because people do show up and do support at certain times. Why do you? What is it that you like that you want to see more of? This is what I want to hear. This is what I need to hear.
Then watch this video, DSP. Watch any of my videos all the way through, and I think that you'll walk away with something that you can actually utilize. I really do try to give actual criticism instead of just shitting all over the guy. Because even if he isn't willing to take the advice or the criticism, that same advice and criticism could help somebody else out. It could help them make some sort of realization that they weren't coming to before. Maybe it could even help them conduct themselves in a better way online.
All right, this is the constructive thing I need. What is it that I should not be doing? Correct? What is it that I'm doing too much of that you don't like? Because maybe the days of me being the full-time gamer are done, right? Maybe I do. Maybe I need to play way less games, and I need to start splitting my time between other projects and other efforts. I tried this last year with the React stuff, and you guys adamantly raged against that and said, no, you're doing too many Reacts. You're doing full days of reacting to other YouTubers and their channels, documentaries and things like that. You're taking too much time away from the gaming. Don't do that. Do more gaming. So I went back. I literally went forward and went right back to the way it was because this is what people said they wanted. I was trying to give you what you want based on your feedback. But now it seems like that's not working anymore, right? I'm sitting here playing games, and I'm actually losing viewers when I start to play the video game. That's not good. Obviously, there's something up with that, right? By the way, I'm going to try to fix the frame rate on my camera, which tanked for no good fucking reason. So let me just mess with my camera for a little bit here. Try to get the frame rate back. See, the frame rate's fine at 640. Well, I guess that's 480p. Here's a lower res widescreen. This is probably the resolution I'm going to be using tomorrow when I do co-op with my wife. That way we can do widescreen, but it'll not kill as many computer resources if I do this. Okay. Better now? Yeah, a little better.
This is exactly the kind of behavior that makes people tune out, DSP. You're always going on about how first impressions matter and everybody's going to remember their first impression and it's never going to change. Now imagine that you're a viewer who's coming in on this. Imagine you're a brand new viewer who's experiencing DSP for the first time, and this is not only the segment that you come into, but it's also followed immediately by him playing around with his camera like he's never figured out how to use his camera before. If you ask me, this is an instant click away. I'm gonna go watch something that is completely unrelated to this guy because it's guaranteed to be better content.
It's still choppy. What's funny is I think it might just be my preview because when I was in the actual camera window, it looked better. Anyway, yeah, I need to know what it is that you like the most, all right? And I want to know. I want to know what I need to do. And I know, here's the thing. I'm going to get a million suggestions, okay? I know I am. And that's okay. I need to weigh and balance your input now and try to figure out what's the best thing to do for the future, all right? And if that means that this year somehow I dramatically change and shift, if we need to, we could do that. I'm okay with that. All right?
And this is just him outright admitting that he doesn't actually care about the video games that he's playing. He's not interested in actually playing video games for his audience. That the content actually isn't important to him. He'd do anything if it meant more money, if it meant that people were going to tune in and watch him. I know I constantly say that he needs to do whatever is going to entertain his audience, and if that means playing a different game, that means playing a different game, and he should do that. But when I say that, I don't mean that he should just do literally anything they say, because it shows you how little he actually cares about the content that he's making. He should have some sort of passion for the content that he is showing people, because that passion comes through. That's what people want to see. They want to see a content creator who not only has a personality that they enjoy, but also passion for the content that they're making. So I guess DSP is really just 0 for 2 here.
So let's see what everyone's feedback is. I'm literally getting a ton of suggestions right now. No, don't stray too far from the fundamentals. Well, I like it when you're chilling and having fun playing a game, because it's apparent when you're having fun. When you're raging, it's not fun. I turn the stream off. I prefer watching fighting game streams. We get to interact with you and help you out with combos, punishes, and other things. See, everyone has a different opinion. See? I've been telling you guys this for years. I'm a variety streamer, and because of that, there's a variety of people who check me out for various different reasons. There isn't like one thing people tune in the dark side Phil for. There's not. Other content creators, there are a lot of one-trick ponies out there, where it's their shtick every day, the same fucking thing every day, all day. That's what people are there for. And hey, whatever floats your boat and whatever works for them, that's not me. I've always been a guy who's kind of, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. But that's why people are always kind of hanging out, because they never know what you're going to see, and people like different things.
But that mentality seems to go directly against what you're talking about right now, DSP, because those people who are one-trick ponies are doing that one thing all of the time and building an audience that shows up day after day to watch them do the exact same thing. Meanwhile, you're flubbing around doing 100 different video games all at the same time, and nobody's showing up to see any of them. You sit here and act like you have all of these different audiences that come for a variety of things, but when it's time for them to show up and show out, they never do. DSP, why is that? I'm starting to believe it's because they don't exist, that you actually have a core fan base, just like every streamer has a core fan base, and those are the people who are consistently showing up to every stream and supporting. These people actually grew and cultivated an audience that wanted to see them do the thing that they like to do. You failed to do that, and that's why you find yourself in the predicament that you're in now. So even as you are literally addressing your failures as a content creator, your failures to actually capture an audience that wants to show up and see you do the thing that you claim to love to do, you still can't manage to do it without shitting on everybody else. You want to sit here and act as though your shit doesn't stink, even though you're actually hemorrhaging money according to you, and that you're gonna be financially tight if you don't figure out something soon. Just have some humility, DSP. That's all this requires.
Some people might tune into this podcast and not give a crap about the gameplay. Some people might only turn on the stream when the podcast is over because they want to watch the gameplay, you know? So anyway, today I really need your feedback, because after Pal World, and then seeing what's happened in the last couple of weeks on the streams, seeing what's going on sadly with my lost revenue because of trolls, and also seeing the fact that I'm getting feedback like, hey, times are a-changing. Do you not notice more people are hanging out for the podcast, and a lot of people are supporting the podcast, and when you start the games, it dries up? I'm like, damn, I guess I see your point. So let's talk about that further. This is not me saying I'm immediately making any knee-jerk reaction changes. I just want to know what it actually is that you want, right? I don't think we need a longer podcast or anything like that. What I think is, if you want more talk, we can have more talk, but then we have to create shows and things that make sense. It can't just be the level 1 podcast all day, every day. That's not going to work. The podcast is already long enough, right?
The level 1 pre-stream is more than long enough, DSP. In fact, it's actually too long, and your audience has told you multiple times that the pre-stream is too long. And here he goes again, thinking that he needs to create new shows so that he can sit here and talk to his audience, when the reality is he just needs to talk to his audience while he plays the video game. Why is this so hard for him to understand? Why does he continuously walk past this idea as if it's not just sitting on the table right now? Jesus Christ, there's no saving this guy. I feel as though the answer is so obvious, and he's just failing to see it every single time.
It is. What we need to do is, what are other things you like to see? If you really want talk or discussion more, then we should figure this out. Like, how do you do it better in a situation where, like, what shows do you want to see? Right? I don't know. This is what I mean. I would love your feedback on this. Okay? I don't know. It makes me worried. Here's why I'm worried. Because I love certain games. Like, for example, I really like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I knew I was going to. But that's not for my whole audience. That's for a small group of my audience, and I know that. But then, are you telling me that if for me to be successful in the future, I just have to ignore the games I like? Oh, just don't play the games you like anymore because, you know, you don't get a big audience for them. Well, that's fucked up, no? Like, the whole point of me being a YouTuber was to show my passion for games with an audience, and when that resonated through, the success came later. Not, oh, you're just playing games that are big or that people, people are asking for just to make a paycheck. I don't want to do that.
If you don't want to do that, DSP, then you need to commit to it. You have to be willing to piss off your fans that actually want to see new games every single day or week, and just tell them that that's not going to happen and you're going to start playing only games that you want to play. That means that you're going to have to find potentially an entirely new audience. You're going to have to cultivate a new audience that only wants to see you for you and watch you play the games that you want to play. Because just like always, you're constantly sitting on the fence about this. Because you're not willing to make that sacrifice. You're not willing to lose these people in your chat who want something that you don't want to provide them. You've done this to yourself. You've trapped yourself in this situation. But you have to understand, if you want to completely change the content that you put on the internet, a lot of your audience is not going to follow you. That's just the way it has to be. Trust me, I understand that if I just wanted to do Cobra content all of the time, don't worry, I don't. But if I did that, a lot of the people who tune into me for DSP content are not going to follow me over into Cobra content like that. That's not shocking to me. That's not news to me. I understand that. It's just the way that things work. They show up for one style of content, and if that's not what you're going to continue to do, they're going to go somewhere else for that similar style of content. Absolutely, you'll have people who are going to ride or die for you and show up regardless of what the content is, but those people are already here. Just go, DSP, do what you need to do. But of course, that's a commitment, and DSP isn't looking for that. He just wants his audience to tell him what to do so that he can continue to make the same amount of money that he's always been making and living the same lifestyle that he's always been living.
You understand? Like, that's not what I'm about. The day that this just becomes doing things to make money, I might as well be just as bad as all the others out there, right? Any means necessary, make the bag, do anything you can, fucking sell the fuck out, become a shill, become a fake, become a toxic person who just insults and bullies people all day for money. I don't want to do that. I want to be true to me, and I want to continue to resonate that commitment that I've always had with you, that I was going to be transparent, honest, a different kind of guy than all those people on the internet who are fakes. I'm not a fake. I never have been. I've always been. Why do you think I never accepted the big sponsorships? I never got in with the in crowd of gaming because I was never a fake. I was always honest, and a lot of those companies don't like that shit. They don't want people talking the truth about their stuff. They want people kissing ass. I've never been a kiss ass in my entire life.
Well, we all know by now that him not taking sponsorships because he isn't a shill, he isn't a kiss ass, is totally not accurate. He did in fact take sponsorships. He took a few of them, actually. The reason he doesn't have them now is because he literally cannot get them, because the trolls have destroyed his name. The reality is that companies just don't want to work with him because he portrays himself so poorly online and has cultivated a hater base. Companies understand now that there's no money to be gained when partnering with DSP, that he's just going to burn you in the end, and instead you're going to have a bunch of detractors in your emails. Why would any company want to take that risk? And he has admitted as much on his own. But for some reason, he's constantly flip-flopping back and forth between he doesn't get sponsorships because he doesn't want them, and he doesn't get sponsorships because he literally cannot have them. Of course, the truth is just whatever DSP deems necessary for his agenda this week. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, Cat agrees.
So let's talk about this. All right? This is the first of the discussions today, and we got to move on from this topic now because I have to do the schedule and shout-outs. But this is something that I think we need to talk about more and more and figure this out, because I don't want what happened over 10 years ago to happen again. I don't want to become Mr. Dinosaur, the guy who's no one cares about because he's an idiot who didn't listen to feedback. If the writing is on the wall that me just sitting around playing games all day doesn't work anymore, I want to change for the better. I tried last year with the React stuff, and the feedback I got was, no, don't do that. Go back to the gaming. So I did. But here we are only in February of 2024, and half the time that I'm playing games, people are telling me that it's not that interesting. Well, that's not good. Even the games I'm interested in, like Tekken, people are like, eh. Like, well, that's not good. I want to know what you want me to do then. I need feedback on this, you know? Okay. Anyway, now that the seed has been planted, all right, let's start this discussion seriously. In fact, I would love to see, because I'm sure people now are going to leave feedback on this video and overnight. I want the good feedback from people. And if your feedback is, oh, just change everything you are, completely change all of your content to be just like everyone else on YouTube, be a shill character who's a fake, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and no, I'm not doing that. I'd rather go out of business. So if it means I go out of business, I guess I go out of business. I'm going to be true to myself, but find a way to make content that people are going to want more. All right? So let's figure that out. Okay?
Yeah, guys, let's us figure it out. It's our duty to figure out how to fix DSP's channel for him so that he can continue to profit off of our work. Sounds really meaningful to me. Also, there's something really suspect about someone saying now that the seed is planted. If you ask me, that phrasing typically is about something a little more seedy, a little shady. Kind of sounds like you're trying to manipulate people into doing something. You're planting a seed so that it will grow into something later and you will get your way. Maybe it's not that deep and I'm looking too far into it. Maybe DSP is just regarded and doesn't know how words work. He's proven that time time and time again. But that's gonna be it for today's video. Big ups to everybody who watched this video, especially if you made it this far. And a special big ups to all of my members. I love you all so much. Thank you, thank you. Hopefully I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other detractor content and dive deeper into that. Snore tags.